Gene. He's a Liverpool fan. All right, Gene?
How you doing, boys? You all right?
Yes, mate.
Good, thank you.
What do you want to say?
Yeah, listen, I was just going back to the DNA conversation you guys were talking about before, because I mentioned it earlier this week as well. Yeah, I said, and I think, Jamie, what you're talking about there when you talk about the players who've come through the academies and come through these top clubs, for me, when I talk about DNA, I'm not talking about individual ability. When you look at the Spanish clubs, when you look at the Germans, we talk about the Germans always being the efficiency, the German efficiency in their football. Never overly flash, but they've got a bit of quality, but also, a real solidity. When you look at the Spanish, you spoke about the tick-attack of football, the Brazilians, the silky skills, and the Argentinians. We know the Argentinians are going to come with a little bit of physicality, similar to the Italian kind of way of defending. For me, that's a DNA. So over the generations, regardless of what players have come in and left the squads, left the national teams, they've got the same style of play. Now, when we talk about England, I've just mentioned Spain, Brazil, Italy. When we talk about England, what do we associate with England international football teams? We don't really have what we've done. We've tried the passing, we've tried the possession. When maybe we go back to like the mid-90s, we were still going quite direct, quite route one. We're trying the possession football thing, but with no real incision, with no real penetration.
I would say that we did do that with over the last decade. I think we have been that. A team that plays football, a team that plays that type of game. All right, our mentality in the last minutes of games, yes. Yeah. We still have made them decisions to drop back. But in terms of overall performance, in terms of how we now approach football matches, England dominate possession.
I agree, Jamie, but the problem is that really what gets the best out of the players that we have at our disposal? Because we don't have midfield technicians like the Spanish or like the Brazilians. This is what I give Tuchel credit for. Tuchel spoke about trying to bring the Premier League intensity to the national team. And what he tried to do, Madueke and Gordon and Rashford, and obviously Saka, what he tried to do with those wide men was get people who dominate their one-on-one situations and run at their fullbacks. Madueke ran at his fullback. He did what he was supposed to do. The only problem was the final ball quality just wasn't there, unfortunately. So I could see what Tuchel's trying to do. This possession football is not really something that's born in England, really, is it? When we look at our product, our Premier League product, one of the things that all foreign players will say when they come to England is the physicality and the tempo is totally different from anywhere else. And that is what makes the Premier League such a strong league, even on the European stage. So what we need to try and do, along with that mentality, because that's another key thing, people talk about the arrogance of Jude Bellingham. I'll tell you what, if the other England players had an ounce of that arrogance as well, they stand up to Argentina on Wednesday and we don't fall back into our defensive formation.
I don't really agree with a lot of callers, but this one was absolutely spot on. And this is what I said about the DNA. I said when I played in Spain, from the bottom of the league team was tiki-taka, was playing football. There was no difference. Okay, but you don't see that in England. You only see the top four.
I disagree.
How can you disagree, Jay? How can you disagree?
Because I've seen Burnley play that style of football. All right, they get relegated. I've seen Southampton play that style of football, get relegated. Every team in the Premier League now plays football. There's maybe...
Okay, they play football because the game's evolved. Okay, they play football, the game's evolved, but we're talking about on the elite level here. We're talking about, if you look at a team like Spain, like the caller said, you look at Brazil, you know from history, you know what they are. You know what they are. What?
Brazil are crap.
No, but the DNA, just because they're crap.
DNA. Brazil haven't got an identity right now.
Brazil's identity is being the same. Yeah, it's been with great individuals who got a certain style of play, flair, all about the attack.
It hasn't worked.
We're not talking about if it's worked. Okay, but we're not talking about as it worked. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the DNA.
Yeah, but England's DNA, but what's England's DNA then?
Well, we haven't really got one.
I disagree. I disagree.
We haven't really got one, Jay. You look at Italy, defence, solid. You know what you get. England, we're either there or there.
Italy haven't even got to the World Cup in the last 20 years.
We're just talking about the DNA of the history of the club. They're multiple World Cup winners, bro. They're multiple World Cup
They haven't
winners.
been in one for 20 years.
Oh my God.
20 years.
Well, we haven't won one since '66.
Yeah, I know,
about
but
England?
let's not talk about Italy like they've got this great identity. They ain't
We're
qualified.
not saying it's great or bad. We're just talking about a DNA.
So what's our DNA?
We haven't got one. That's the coolest point.
No, I disagree. Every player I watch who can play for England plays at an elite level football.
But that's an individual at a great club surrounded by world-class talent. Come on.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
They're surrounded by world-class talent when they go and join up for England.
But they're English, and it's our mentality. You look at,
Mate, I can't agree with that. I can't. I'm not having it. I understand there's a mentality in terms of to hang on, which but that comes from your manager. That comes from your manager. That don't come from the players. That comes from your manager when he makes a decision to bring on a defender for a winger. That sets the precedent for how you're going to approach the last. You can't tell me that these players, Declan Rice, Anderson, Jude Bellingham, Kane, Morgan Rogers, loves getting on the ball. These players can all play football. They can all keep the ball. I watch them play in the Premier League every week.
So can Cape Verde. They can keep the ball.
I'm talking about Cape Verde.
but you say things like they can go keep the ball.
I just think it's
everyone can keep the ball on an
agenda.
international stage.
I think it's an agenda that everyone goes on about, that England's DNA is that we can't keep the ball. I think that's absolute crap.
I don't think anyone says
that's crap. These players are elite level football players with the right manager and the right decisions and the right tactics. These players can control a football match, no problem. I've seen them do it in the Premier League every week.